Hello and welcome to another episode of Flower Breeding. In this episode we'll talk about Frank Reinelt. He lived from 1900 to 1979, living around 79 years. He was born on Christmas Day in a village in Konecki, the eastern part of Czechoslovakia. He later moved to Majstek, Frýdek as a very small child. His father was a miller and both his parents had valued education and had relatives who were engineers and teachers. To help meet ends meet, his mother grew flowers to sell in the market, during which time the young Mr. Reinelt helped her in the fields. At the age of 14, he worked at a nursery in town that was near a cemetery. He rescued chrysanthemums that had been left there by mourners and made amateurish attempts to breed plants with larger flowers from them. His employer initially derided him, but when he succeeded with one of his flowers, he did not hesitate to put it on display as part of a sale operation. In 1915, he joined the army as a drummer boy in Austria. He later, at the behest of his mother, emigrated to America to become a master gardener. He attended the Pomological Institute of Brno, Bavaria, after the First World War ended. Given the crummy conditions of that university, with the students having to dig potatoes and perform indentured labor for the profs, even though he was paying for that work, this served to push Mr. Reinelt to other areas such as Bohemia and Romania. He later on worked as a gardener for Queen Marie of Romania, a granddaughter of Queen Victoria herself. By that point, he could speak English, Polish, Russian, Romanian, and German. He finally emigrated to the United States in 1926, where he attempted to form a relationship and apprenticeship with Luther Burbank. However, he had already died by the time he reached America. Nonetheless, he continued his work as a gardener living in Santa Clara County. He later married his wife in 1936, Elaine Gorton. She later died in 1997. In the intermediate times between these points, he already learned how to breed different varieties of begonia and other seeds. For this reason, the Valteri brothers contacted him because they were struggling to propagate French and Belgian begonia seed. As a result of his success in propagating these varieties, he was approached by a financier named Mr. Marvin. Basically, he bought the seeds, and Mr. Reinelt propagated them and bred with them. And this was during the Great Depression. And from there, Mr. Marvin would then sell these new plants. Most of his varieties were obtained through crossbreeding German varieties, possibly obtained from Bennery or Haig and Schmidt in Erfurt. But likewise, he also bred other varieties such as irises, phlox, Gerber daisies, and delphiniums. After meeting with Henry Hyde at a flower show, his nursery was found to be specialized in selling hybrid begonias. He decided to buy a great many varieties of begonia both from Hyde's nursery and another nursery called Brown Bulb Ranch in Capitola, and began breeding with them in hopes of creating new hybrids. During this time, he came across the Valteri brothers again, with the two groups joining forces to create a new nursery. This new begonia business was profitable right from the start, although they had a backup plan of falling back on selling cut flowers. In case the cash dried up, it was unnecessary. Mr. Reinelt shared the profits of his business but not the ownership of the buildings. Later on, he added polyanthus, primroses, and delphiniums into his repertoire of plant species to be bred with. However, begonias remained the top dog in terms of monetary gain for his nursery, as at that time, begonias were still somewhat rare and very fashionable. He was amongst the first to breed a tuberous begonia cultivar with a double flower, breeding different forms such as a rose form, a camellia form, a ruffled form, a marigold form, a picotee form, a double ruffled picotee form, and even more. He also bred several hanging basket varieties of begonia derived from a species known as Begonia lloydii, with color ranges ranging from the palest of whites to the brightest of reds, with each flower being up to 10 inches across. By 1964, he had noticed that much of his work on hanging basket varieties had improved thanks to an English breeder named John Lloyd, who had improved them to make them more beefy in terms of look and feel. During this time, he further improved those varieties, culminating in the variety called Begonia Pink Shower. During this time, he also developed different strains of Primula and Delphinium. breeding one of the first sky blue delphinium hybrids. By the 1930s, when the Blackmore and Langdon business in England was booming, Mr. Reinelt began selling his varieties to that nursery, as they had no presence in England, further expanding his horizons of business. Mr. Reinelt was found not to have any interest in awards or publicity, as the image on the screen may have suggested. He also tended to try to mold children into his image by getting them interested in horticulture and plant breeding early on. Nonetheless, due to his great prolific breeding efforts, he became a celebrity amongst all horticulturists. In 1956, the Massachusetts Horticultural Society gave him its Thomas Rowland Medal. The only other person honored at that time was Eugene Boyer, the breeder of the first Floribunda roses. He also received the Vetch Memorial Medal from the Royal Horticultural Society in London, which had only given a non-British person that medal a few times since the founding of that organization. Neither Frank nor Elaine Reinelt went to England to receive this award, and he only returned to his land of birth once, as poor health prevented him from moving around and forced him to retire. In the end, he died in December 3rd, 1979. And that about covers everything. Thank you for watching.